Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about the art of quiet influence and how to create lasting impact without the recognition, the applause, the pat on the back that people are looking for. That's not as needed when you're trying to make an impact. But first, quick question for you. Have you ever poured your heart into something only for it to feel like nobody actually noticed it? Maybe you stayed up late to finish a project and no one said a word about it. Maybe you're a parent remembering every appointment, packing of lunch, keeping everything moving forward that just kind of feels invisible. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur grinding behind the scenes while everyone else seems to be getting the spotlight. Yeah, if you feel like that, I see you and I get it. I've been there. It's human to want to be seen. We all want to be known for what we're doing actually matters to people. But here's something that I think I had to learn the hard way, and I think a lot of people learn the hard way. Waiting around for recognition is actually one of the biggest things that keeps people held back from actually making the real impact that they can make. I want to dive deeper into this topic. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It's an Amazon bestseller. I'll put a link down in the description where you can get it. It's got tons of 5-star reviews. It is impacting thousands of people's lives as people buy it and start implementing the rules that are inside of it to start living a more fulfilled life, start giving more, finding their gifts and superpowers, things like that. So go get it. It's the best $10 you could invest in yourself. Or if you're not ready to invest the $10 in yourself, you could go down and get yourself access. I'll put a link to a free resource called The Giver's Roadmap that helps get those initial steps started. So if at any point this video starts to resonate with you, either go get the book or go download the Giver Roadmap. I'll put the links to both down in the description, okay? So today I want to walk you through something that, it's changed perspective for so many people that I've worked with. It changed perspective for me. The art of that quiet influence is how you create the deep, lasting impact without needing to have the stage or shout out or spotlight. Now, I did comedy for 15 years, so I like having the stage. I like being in the spotlight. For a long time, I thought my whole worth was tied to how many people noticed what I was doing at home, at work, at business, on stage, anything like that. But what I discovered is that the real impact I had wasn't happening when people were clapping. It was happening in the really small and quiet moments where I was giving my best, even when nobody was even paying attention. Now, here's what I know about you. You have gifts and superpowers that are already powerful enough to create ripples of change bigger than you could ever think possible or that you could see right now. You don't need to have a loud platform. You don't need to have more likes or thank yous. You just need to shift the way you think about the real influence, what real influence can look like and how you could start making that influence for others. So before we dive in, of course, if you're new here, please hit subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. I don't want you to miss out on any of the content we have about unlocking your gifts, your superpowers, or building a life that actually feels like, you. I'll also put down in the description, along with the book and the free resource, all the places you can go find us. Go find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn under The Giver Method, or you can go to thegivermethod.com and check out our other resources of ways we help people, ways that we get on people's stages, podcasts, things like that. So today I want to dive in and I want to share. I've got 5 kind of steps or principles that can help you to break free from where you're at and tap into break free from needing that recognition and really show you how you tap into the quiet influence that doesn't just feel good, but it lasts. Even if your life is crazy busy, because I get it as parents, entrepreneurs, or maybe you're working in a company cranking through long hours, if you're carrying a lot on your plate, if you're feeling stuck, you're actually way closer than you think. So all of the ideas I do, I like to gear them towards the fact that you are a busy person, and here are the things that you could start to pivot or change that will start making a greater impact in your life. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's start rolling through these different principles and steps. So the first, I just refer to the first one as kind of like the principle anchor. So when we kick it off, the foundational point of this purpose anchor is that at the heart of quiet influence is this deep connection of why you show up to do what you even do. Even when nobody's clapping, nobody notices, nobody's handing you a gold star when it's done. Having a purpose anchor, it's it's like you just forget about the likes or the shares or the pats on the back. It's about tapping into the quiet kind of fulfillment that doesn't depend on who's paying attention to you. And if you think about it, that feeling you see when your kid finally masters something, they finally get something, clicks for them that you've been helping them with, or maybe a teammate steps up and becomes the support that you gave behind the scenes, or a customer wins because of something that you built, even if they have no idea that you were a part of it. It's not validation, that's fulfillment. That's what a purpose anchor is. So here's what you want to do. You want to build yourself your own anchor. And so first, get clear. Like, if you haven't in a while, even if you feel like you have, it's always good to revisit. Like, get clear on your why. Not a polished version for Instagram or anything. Like, we want the gritty, the real one that makes the hard days worth it. And write it down in simple words that you can actually read. Like, it could be, like, if you're a parent, it could say, I'm raising humans who will make the world better long after I'm gone. That's a great one. Entrepreneur who's maybe thinking like, I'm solving real problems that make life easier for real people. Or if you're working for a larger organization, maybe it's, you're helping build something bigger than any one person could build alone. Find whatever that is. Get clear on it. Just write out a single statement and then read it every morning, especially on the days that maybe you're starting to feel invisible or overlooked. And if you ever catch yourself craving recognition, pause and ask yourself, like, if no one ever said thank you for this, would it still matter to me? And if the answer is yes, then, boom, like, you've got your anchor, like, set. You're ready and you've got that steady part of it. Now, you can set up purpose reminders around you, sticky notes on a laptop or, photo on a locked screen of a computer, taping a quote to your mirror, whatever it is, like whatever snaps you back to your center when your doubt could possibly creep in. Because without a purpose anchor, you'll get tossed a compliment every so often, and then there's going to be silence. You're going to feel amazing when people notice you, like, all the time, and empty when they don't. So even if you want real impact to stay, this purpose anchor is going to free you from this kind of roller coaster feeling that you could be having. So it lets you start to just show up and give generously and stay true to who you are, even when no one's watching, because real giving isn't about being seen. It's about rooted in what matters most to you and knowing that deep down you're making the difference that's going to last. Now, the second thing you want to focus on is, I call them micro moments, micro impact mindset. Something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough credit is this idea of micro impact or micro moments and having a mindset around that. Because the truth is that real influence, it doesn't usually happen through some giant show-stopping, headline-worthy moment that people get applause for. It's the quiet moments that nobody claps at. It's the little decisions that feel like no big deal, but they stack up over time. It's about that extra 5 minutes that you're spending listening to your kid instead of rushing through to bedtime. It's the email that you send to check in on a coworker. It's the follow-up call to a client, not because you have to, but because you care about them. Most of us miss it because we're waiting for a big break or a perfect moment or the huge project that will finally feels like worthy of that thing. But while we're waiting, these real opportunities, they're, for making a difference, they're slipping by us, and the ordinary day becomes more ordinary without being able to make that impact. So as you have this micro impact mindset, it really starts to flip it for you. It's about realizing, okay, I want to be intentional about small actions done consistently to create a bigger ripple than maybe occasional big grand gestures. Kind of like how a river carves out the canyon, like not through a giant flood. Generally, it's by showing up day after day. So what you want to do is you got to start by living it. So there's a few steps you could do here. The first one would be to look for your daily impact moments. So nothing big, nothing flashy, those regular little touch points where you can use your gifts and your superpowers and where they start to show up naturally. As a parent, it could be, real question in the car ride, with your kids. And as an entrepreneur, it could be leaving an extra note of encouragement on a project, or maybe if you're working for a larger company, it's pulling someone aside and just saying, hey, I saw your work you put in today and it mattered. Like, it's small, but it's real. And then you build your micro impact inventory. Each night you write down maybe 1 to 2, maybe 1, 2, 3, I don't know, tiny things, ways that you showed up that day. Not stuff that you got recognition for, but just the places where you're like, you know what, I consciously showed up and I was more intentional there. And then step 3 is you just have to trust that there's a compound effect. When you are consciously noticing and celebrating the small things that you do well, you train yourself to spot even more opportunities. And trust me, they're absolutely everywhere. These are such small shifts that anyone can do as a part of their lives. So just finding those few moments to just pause, put the phone down, look away from the screen and be like, hey, you matter to me and I'm going to make this moment count, right? Like, that mindset, it's a huge game changer. It turns giving from, maybe a someday into a right now. When you believe impact only counts in the big flashy ways, or you're waiting for someone to give you that cheer, you're waiting to have more time or more success or more importance, like, gosh, you're going to miss all these small and consistent actions that stack up over time. So stop waiting and just start living by that sort of an idea. And the best part is you don't have to wait for validation. Like, the fulfillment comes from knowing that you're showing up over and over, even when nobody's got some sort of a trophy at the end of the day for you. Now, our third one is going to be this the value you create, and there's a perception shift we have to focus on, and that shift honestly changes everything once you get it. Like I said, the value perspective shift. That's the phrase. Perspective, for some reason, blinked in my head. Here's the deal. Most of us are taught, like without even realizing, that recognition that we get often equals value. If someone claps for you, you must be doing something important. If nobody notices, then maybe it doesn't matter that much. And the big thing is that is a complete lie. Like, the truth is that the real worth of what you give isn't measured by the likes or the thank yous or the shout outs. It's measured by the difference that you made, even if nobody ever knows it was you. That dinner that you cooked, like, still nourished your family, whether anyone thanked you or not. That project where you fixed behind the scenes stuff, like, it succeeded even though your name wasn't on it, or it wasn't called out, that thing you did. The kind, like the kind word that you said lifted somebody's day, even if they never told you. Like, so what you want to do is just start flipping your mindset again. Like, so stop chasing the recognition and trusting that real impact. So the first thing is you go and do a reality check on your contributions. After you give, you help, or you create something, don't ask, like, did anyone notice? Ask instead, like, did this create real value for people? Create that simple switch. It's a massive difference for you. It pulls the focus off of how people react, and it puts it back into what actually happened, or the outcome that will end up happening from it. Now, the second one is that you want to create your own value metrics that you have. So forget about the applause or the scoreboard, the likes, the shares, the subscribers, anything like that. For parents, did I create a moment of connection today? If I'm an entrepreneur, did I solve a real problem for someone today? If I'm working for a company, did I make my team's work easier today? Measure whatever it is, pick whatever it is. What did you do that made things better? Not who clapped. And then start, value journaling. At the end of the day, you just jot down those ways that you made a difference. This is journaling and reflection are going to be some of the biggest impacts you can have on your life to start living a more fulfilled life. There's no fanfare needed. You just need to train your brain to see the real world wins you're already creating for people. And then anchor your purpose, not the praise. Once again, that's right back to number one, where it's whenever you catch yourself wishing someone noticed, just breathe and remind yourself, I didn't do this to be seen. I did this because it matters. And it matters because my purpose statement, what I'm trying to accomplish. And the more you do that, the stronger that anchor will become, and the less you need external validation to keep showing up with the heart that you have. It's a big game changer as you should make that shift. If you tie the value, to how loudly people are going to applaud, you're always going to chase the wrong things. But when you're rooted in your value and what's real, the actual difference you're making, you just unlock this whole new level of freedom. You stop worrying about who notices or doubting yourself just as, because it's quiet after you give. You just start living from a place of real impact and fulfillment. And at the end of the day, it's not the noise that matters, it's that ripple we've now started to create. Now, our fourth one is all about the capacity, building on your capacity and the ability to focus. So, when you move that, quietly, so let me start again. Talking about a move that you can make that will quietly multiply your impact more than just about anything else is this, the capacity, building focus that you have. And so what's happening to most of us is that, you see someone struggling, a teammate is stuck, a kid, hits a roadblock where they can't figure something out, a friend needs help, and just because we're wired to give, we jump in and try and fix it. It feels good in that moment, right? Because I've been there. I know what you're talking about. You swoop in, you solve the problem, you've saved the day. But here's the catch: if you're always doing it from for them, we're not actually helping them grow in any sort of a way. We're just making them need us more. And so capacity building, and as you focus on that, it's going to flip that script. It's not about rushing in for a solution. It's about stepping back and asking, how can I help them get stronger so that they maybe won't need me next time? It's the old teach them to fish sort of an idea, but in a deeper way and more real to everyday life. So what you do is you start shifting the way that you start to look at things. You want to create this lasting influence. So what you want to do is, change your first instinct. When someone brings a problem, before you dive in to fix it, just pause and ask yourself, is this a chance to build their capacity instead of just meeting a need? And that question is going to shift a lot of things for you. And then build a teaching response. When you do help, don't just hand solution. Walk them through your thinking. Maybe highlight the patterns or the pitfalls or the principles that are involved there. If your kid's stuck on a school project, instead of fixing it, sit and brainstorm. What's the first step you could take? what's another way you could look at this? If a teammate's overwhelmed, like, don't just fix their spreadsheet, like, show them your system. Let them try it, even if it's messy at first. Like, you're not slowing things down, you're actually speeding up future wins by doing that. And then you focus on how it could maybe create simple tools that outlive you. If you find yourself teaching the same things over and over again, like, how do I capture that? How do I record it, or build a checklist, or a document of some kind that allows you to do that? And then, of course, celebrate growth, not dependence. When someone you help, like, handles it on their own next time, like, celebrate the heck out of that, even if they didn't do it perfectly. Because that's where real leadership is. It's not creating fans who always need you. It's creating leaders who are stronger because you showed up. You taught them how to show up. It's a big shift. Like, this shift is pure gold for you. Like, if you're always fixing things, they're going to stay stuck in that hamster wheel. But when we focus on this capacity, we're creating those ripples. We're equipping people to solve their own challenges and then help others as well. And honestly, it leads into this next one, which is about the kind of legacy we're trying to leave behind. And so the fifth and final step there is going to be this legacy perspective. Like, as we wrap this sort of an idea up of how we do it, the quiet, value creation without the recognition, the truth is that some of the most powerful impact you'll ever create, you're never going to see. You're never going to see what that impact is. And I love that concept. I love the idea that, like, something I do today could impact someone, that they change how they show up at home, which changes how that person went to work, which changes how that person's team worked, which changes how that person goes home. Like, I love the idea that I will never see the full impact of what it is that I've been doing. Most of us, me included, grew up measuring the contributions based off, like, what happens right now. Like, did they say thank you, or did something change immediately? Did anyone notice? But if the answer is no, it's way too easy to feel like we missed it, like it didn't matter. But once again, that's where the magic is. The biggest difference you make is usually shows up years and years later in ways that you probably could never trace back to that single moment. It was the little habits, you're modeling for your kids to help shape them, who they are going to become decades from now. It's the advice you gave a teammate that echoes through to in their leadership style down the road, or the system you built that quietly still makes someone's life easier down the road, even though maybe you've moved on to something else. So just start by seeing your giving through that legacy lens, instead of did I get that gold star? So find those, like, what are your legacy priorities? Like, what value do you want to pass on to others? What ripples are you trying to create? If nobody ever, connected it back to me, what change would I still want to be a part of? It's not about ego or fame. It's about deciding what kind of seeds you actually are going to plant. And then you look at they call it the 3 horizon view is what they refer to it as, where you start thinking about giving across 3 sort of timelines, multiverse timelines sort of a thing. Like, what's the immediate, like, what could I do that's going to create a shift this week? What's the intermediate, like, I don't know, it will help growth or change over the next maybe year or two. And then there's that generational one that's like, how can I create something that's going to last 10, 20, 50 years from now? And when you weigh your actions against all 3, you stop freaking out about maybe immediate payoff, and you start focusing on those aspects and the value that comes from that. You don't have to, you don't need a life overhaul. So, like, I think of it like this third thing here is in this principle, or this idea, is like planting the seeds. You don't overhaul your life and change everything. It's just about getting intentional with small moves that pay off for the future. When I talk about building legacy, that people think that feels heavy, and it's like, no, it's the little things you're doing. Not every seed sprouts right away, but the ones that do, they're going to grow deeper roots. They're going to grow wider branches, and anything that you could have, they're going to grow more and more than anything you could try to force them to do. Here's why this legacy perspective, it changes everything. Like, without it, you're probably undervaluing your best work. You may have thought that you failed at something just because you didn't get recognition or anything like that, even when you're actually quietly changing lives. So when you lock into this sort of a legacy mindset, you start playing a way bigger game. You stop needing every little thing to feel huge right now, and you just trust that every act is real and it has generosity. And every time that you show up aligned with your gifts and superpowers, you're planting that seed, and that those seeds, like, they don't explode into trees overnight. The legacy perspective, it frees you up from, like, to just live and give in a way that your ripples are going to go far beyond you'll ever notice, and you stop needing to harvest fruit from that tree while it's growing. Honestly, that's the kind of impact that lasts. long after the project, long after the moment, long after anyone even remembers that seed was planted, because it was never about being remembered. It was about making something better because you chose to show up that way. And that's exactly what you're doing. Now, just take a second, take a deep breath for a moment. Because today, we didn't just walk through a bunch of tips, we walked through a whole ways of, living out your life with your gifts, all these powerful shifts that you could start to do. Now, these aren't just good ideas. They're a whole new lens of how you show up in the world. They're not tied to recognition, applause, or being paid attention to. But what I want you to really hear is, once again, just because someone didn't notice your effort today, that thing you're doing in the moment, does not mean your effort didn't matter. Some of the most powerful ripples you're ever creating, you won't get to see them. And that's not a failure, it's a legacy. In fact, most of the time, if you just change how you are showing up day to day, intentionally showing up, you may not even realize that you're planting the seeds because of how much you're trying to live within that world of, I'm just trying to be more intentional and create that impact. When you have an anchor and purpose, you start seeing that power of the tiny mindset moments, mind shifts, and the tiny moments you can create. You start to give without needing any sort of credit or return. When you measure real value instead of chasing approval, when you're building others up instead of fixing everything, when you're creating communities that give without having to be the center, when you just trust that your best work might bloom long after you're gone, that's fulfillment. When we talked about the Giver Method book, and the whole subline is how to transform lives through generosity, and it's how to unlock superpowers, create impact, connections, and fulfillment in your life. That's the whole principle of it. It's the kind of giving that frees you up. It frees you from waiting for thank yous, trophies, good jobs, applauses to make that difference. And funny enough, when you just let go of that, your impact grows even faster. You connect deeper, you give cleaner, you serve bigger, because it's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about just living fully. So don't try to do this all at once. Just pick one thing we talked about today. Pick the principal anchor, or the micro impact moments, or the contribution you can make in different ways. Pick something, and then just start small. Pick one, do one small step from it this week, and then let it build from there. Every little shift that you make is planting those seeds, and those seeds are going to, they're not going to sprout right away, but trust me, they're there and they're going to be growing. Now, if today's conversation sparked anything with you, please hit the like button. Share this with someone who may need it. I think there's a whole bunch of people that you may know that this could make a great impact on. And also, definitely go down to the description, get your copy of the Giver Method book on Amazon, or the Giver Roadmap that's going to be down there. And hey, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment, tell me which of these resonated the most with you. Maybe what's one small step you want to commit to doing this week to creating a greater influence, but a quieter influence. And then remember, once again, you don't need a stage to make a difference. You don't need an audience to change lives. Your gifts are real. You could make them be superpowers if you focus on how to make that impact intentionally. Your contribution, it matters so much, and the ripples that you're making, they're moving out into the world in ways you can't even imagine. And so with that, I'll just say, until next time, please keep discovering your gifts, creating an impact that only you can make because of who you are. And we'll catch you in the next video. Trust me, you've got this. You're on the right path. So we'll catch you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.